Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Back to another episode of Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving. It is your host Poonam here with a very special guest, Geeta Narayanan. Today we are going to talk about burnout and why it is important to be aware of symptoms of burnout and what to do in times of need. I was very intrigued with this topic and I did some research and I wanted to know who coined this term burnout. And I found that term was coined back in 1970s by the American psychologist Herbert Bredenberg. He used it to describe the consequences of severe stress and high ideals in helping professions. But I am hearing this term from high schoolers as well as college students. So I wanted to really find out more, and that's the reason we are doing this podcast recording. So let's get started and find out more about this topic. So welcome, Geeta. I'm looking forward to talking to you. Before I ask you a few questions, can you please introduce yourself and tell us more about you and what are you doing currently?
Hi, Poonam. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Um, my name is Geeta Narayanan. I have a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a practice in Bascom Avenue in San Jose. I see adults, younger adults also, and in my practice, and very few couples in my practice. A lot of them I see in terms of clinical, I see them with anxiety and depression and other relationship issues.
Thank you so much, Geeta, for letting us know your expertise. That's fantastic. So before I ask you a detailed question about this topic, I would like to start with a very basic question. What is burnout? And you mentioned you are seeing young adults who are maybe going through anxiety, stress, and depression. But what's the difference between these terms, burnout and stress? Any insights to that?
Burnout is a cycle of negative emotions and withdrawal that results from investing too much into something emotionally, intellectually, or physically without doing anything to restore yourself. So I see that quite this kind of mentality, whether it is stress or burnout, not just with one population, I see across lifespan in all ages. It really depends on their role and what they actually take under their belt, sometimes even beyond their capacity.
Interesting. So, what are the possible causes for feeling burnt out?
You know, I would say that burnout, it's probably one of the reason could be is, as it says, as a prolonged stress. So basically, you just feel that you aren't stuck in the cycle. There is absolutely no room to breathe. Like Christina Baslack, one of the social psychologists, she says that it's a response to long-term emotional and interpersonal stresses on the job, and you just get into the cycle and you keep on going just like the hamster on the wheel. There is no end to it. That is what burnout is.
Interesting. So, the person who is feeling burnout is going through that turmoil or long-term emotional stress, but maybe not realizing it. So, how would a person know if he or she is burnt out? Are there any particular symptoms?
Yes, definitely, Poonam. Actually, sometimes there is physical symptoms, and then there is also mental symptoms, but both are also like interrelated. So it's not that there will be first display of physical symptoms and mental symptoms later. So one of the physical symptoms would be like headaches, uh, like heart palpitations, insomnia, change in appetite, irregular sleep patterns. And then also mental symptoms is anxiety, depression, difficulty concentration, forgetfulness, and crying spells. Sometimes things get too overwhelming, that's beyond their capacity, that's beyond what they are able to do, and they feel a sense of overwhelmingness. So the crying spells happen. So these are some of the symptoms that one could look for for an extended period of time. When I say extended period of time, you would see that anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks, and then I would say that if instead of just waiting even for 4 weeks, I suggest that just look into it as soon as you feel, because sometimes we feel, oh, it is just today, I will just see how it is. So I think if it is about 1 to 2 weeks, I think that's a good time to just stop and assess, okay, what is going on with me? I think that would be a good way to assess.
Very true. Yeah, instead of delaying it, it's better to, if possible, prevent it otherwise, or take care of yourself. So another question in my mind, Geeta, is there a particular age group or personality type who feel more burnt out than others?
See, the age group, I'm going to say, Poonam, is it happens across the lifespan, like I said initially, because if you really see, like starting from very young children, all the kids are overcrowded with activities. And if you see also the middle schoolers, they are also, because sometimes I think the going to college, or the college admission process of what you need to do in college, it starts from middle school these days, not even in high school. And then so it continues from middle school all the way to high school, and even after they graduate high school. So it goes, every group of school age kids, they go through some kind of burnout or distressing factors that is making them feel overwhelming and burnout. So I don't think it is just one particular age group. And also high school anyway, that has its own challenges, similar situation. And I also see a lot of young adults who leave home to college. There is a sense of, first time they're actually experiencing what the world is, right? After the first 18 years of their lives, they live with their parents in their safe environment. So suddenly when they just go step out, immediately they feel they should be an adult. Adulthood is a biggest, because I keep telling them, you're 18 now, this is it, right? You're going to be in this for a long time. So, but then they think that, okay, once I'm 18, I'm supposed to do it all. I'm supposed to get it all immediately. And there is a sense of urgency very quickly. And there is a sense of urgency. It's like you go to college and immediately they want this internship. Immediately they want to start their own company. So there is absolutely no room for needing any space. So that's why you feel that burnout it just continues, right? After college, they feel they take it to their workforce, and then after the workforce, it just continues. So that's why I think it's important to continuously monitor.
Thank you for clarifying that, Geeta. And even as I was saying, high demanding jobs, right? And other jobs where maybe some caretaker, right? Caregiver is there, or parents with special needs, or
Yeah,
any, right? Those professions also are very demanding. So
yeah,
what do
you're
you?
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, yeah. Because I think you're right. Because the caregiving, taking care of parents and taking care of, let's say, in-laws, and if there are like special needs children, they go through their own challenges too. And sometimes, there is also this set thing about housewives, homemaker, and they experience burnout too, because they are just tired of constantly taking care of people, taking care of the general responsibilities in the house, and they can experience this too. You're absolutely right.
So, as per my understanding, then no age group or particular personality types, we all can feel that burnout anytime. So, but what could be the preventive action a person can take to avoid this burnout?
I think the best thing, Poonam, is to just detect this earlier than later, because sometimes we just feel that, oh, it's going to get better. I think it's just me. I need to just work harder. So I think sometimes it's better to just question that and see, this has been happening for 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, let me just pause and see what is happening. And then one of the preventive things one can do is, always create a routine for yourself to take care of your physical and mental health, which could be exercising, meditating, and also listening to the podcast like what we are doing right now. And one of the things that we all have to do is the gratefulness journal, whether it's in the beginning of the day or the end of the day, or doing both times, right? And because sometimes we don't appreciate what we have. Sometimes, mind always is looking for something that we don't have. So, and we don't appreciate what we have. So I think those are the things that will just help our mind to feel nurtured and take care of it. And of course, if any of these things don't help, then seeking professional help sooner than later would be the next step.
Yes, Geeta, and I do believe, I'm also a working professional and I do know how it feels when you're working in high demand job role. And
Yeah.
I do have colleagues who do share, like, if they are feeling something like that. So what I tell them, having hobbies, infusing some joy in your day, that's very important. And even the psychologist who coined this term, I think he was also working way harder. And I encourage my audience to read that story. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but when he realized what he was doing and he did not have any joy or hobbies and it was just work, 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 then he had to step back and take care of himself by having some good hobbies. So I do give very importance to hobbies. Any creativity you want to do, writing, singing, right, gardening, going in the nature, right, something other than work. Student, it could be, study is not the only thing you
Yeah.
should be doing 24/7, right? So that's what I feel like it could be very helpful if you are creative, you are going out in nature, taking care of your mind, body, and nutrition, as you were saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Because I think I feel some of us, when we were also raised in India, it is always the hobby and leisure, it was not given that much importance because the main thing was doing your homework, going to school, getting a job, or going to college, get a degree that is going to get you a job. That's it. Right. But there is not much. And then here also, though we take our kids to all the classes and everything is geared to, okay, which is what classes I should take, even for hobbies, that is going to get me to the A list colleges, right, where that is going to get to me those companies. So it is always going behind those things. So as a result of which I feel there is not much space for any of us. Okay, what is it I actually want to do? Like what you said, it could be anything. It could be writing. Sometimes it could be, I'm going to go for ice skating. Have you tried ice skating? No, actually, I like doing dance. Have you tried a Bollywood dance? You don't know. And see, some of so a lot of things, it doesn't need to be for something, right? It could be something that will bring you joy. And sometimes, all these things, we need to bring some, lightness to our life, because I feel that there seems to be a sense of competition. And then we are all raised in a very competitive environment. We still are, I think, back in India, right? Because a good amount of population, we all come from a middle class population, right? And where education guarantees, a job, and job gives security and everything. So everything else comes secondary. So I think right now, and that's what I think we are trying to, I guess, in this generation, to say, job is not the only thing. I guess that's why you and I are doing this podcast, to say, how can you continue to evolve and grow other than your job and education, right? Create some passion that is going to help you to also have some fun in your life.
Absolutely. Like, enjoy the journey. Yes, you have a destination to reach, but if you're not enjoying your journey,
Yeah,
you're not taking that pause to appreciate what you have,
yeah,
then you won't be happy.
yeah.
So I fully get what you're saying. I think that's a wonderful advice to our teens who are listening to this podcast. So any advice for our parents who are raising their children in this competitive environment as you are talking?
I think it's the same thing. Like what you're saying is a journey for the teens. I think for us, parenting too is a journey, and I don't think it is like it's a fixed thing. And I think our kids are growing up. I think it's more challenging for them because they're growing up in two cultures, and it's not easy. We all grew up only in one culture, and that itself was hard enough, right? And it was not easy for us. And for our kids, it's harder because they have to kind of tiptoe in both cultures. So I think there will be a lot of helpful for the parents is show a lot of compassion and a lot of empathy and actually find out what is it they're thinking and how are they thinking. And I think we as parents, I mean, we do provide good values and beliefs. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're all good kids by and large, right? But the main job is also to help them be, pretty independent as much as possible. Because I think as parents, I feel as and when the kids are getting ready to go out of the house, it's better they go out and explore the world and tell them, you please go and find your own path, but also let them know that they can come to you at any time if they want help. Keep it curious and keep it collaborative rather than growing a child as your project, because that's when things get very out of control. Where I see a lot of parents driving up to the university every week and doing their laundry, cooking for them, and all that. It's okay to do once in a while because we all do that. But sometimes that becomes their project, right? That becomes a project. And when the kids end up being the puppet, then the kids are not allowed to grow. So when the kids are not allowed to grow and be independent, then that it create more stress, not just between the parents and the child. I think also for the child later on, when they are trying to be independent and when they are also creating new relationships. So that can create their own stress. So yes, as parents also, just like what we are telling the teens, it's good to develop our own hobby. And we are never too old to develop our own hobby. And, it is a process, it is a journey. And I'm also going to say that I think we should just be like gentle on ourselves. I guess until we are not gentle on ourselves, it's going to be hard for us to be gentle and compassionate to our kids.
Wonderful, Geeta. And I do believe we parents are the role model. And if kids see us working like machines,
Yeah,
that's what they are seeing. And
yeah,
maybe they will model us. So I think it's parents' responsibility to have a balanced life
yeah,
and having joy in their own life so
yes,
that they can infuse that in the family and kids also learn like it's not only work work work, there are other, like as you're saying, social responsibilities, right? Responsibility for your communities, for your other growth and development, right? So it's wonderful to learn from you and listen to your perspective about the burnout. We talked about preventive care, we talked about when to see experts, and how, as a family, we can help each other to stay as healthy and happy families. So, thank you very much for sharing your perspective today.
yeah. Thank you so much, Poonam, for having me over. I really enjoyed this conversation with you. Thank you.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every Friday, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hoped you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much for listening.